What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Martian and Ozzy podcast. This week, we are back to discuss the Allen versus Craig card going down from the UFC Apex this weekend in a middleweight main event, coming off of a great pay per view event last week, UFC 295. Some great knockouts on the main card. All five main card fights ended by knockout. It was a very profitable event for me, and I'm sure it was for my man Ozzy as well, who I'm joined by each and every week. How we doing this week, my man?
What's good? Did I not say in my tweet sharing our podcast it was going to be the best card of the year? And it delivered. It was a pretty good card. I'm partial. I will say I am partial to the cards that have a lot of competitive decisions and stuff like that. But who doesn't love, a card that you got all these, finishes and stuff like that? I would have liked to see a few more wars. But who was fight of the night last? It was
Nazim and
Nazim.
Slava.
Yeah, I would have loved if the Frivola fight, was like a little bit longer, but that head kick knockout was absolutely a thing of beauty, as well as that butterfly guard sweep. I'm hoping my boy Dan Levy, maybe he could break down that butterfly sweep by Benoit Saint Denis. Get the French fans on his side. But yeah, it was a great card. Staking strategy wasn't great, but overall, I did come out profitable personally, and I'm sure listeners of the podcast did really well with it as well.
Yeah, the slight favorites came through. A lot of our picks, except for Pat, basically was the only one that didn't
Hmm.
come through. Nazim pushed, but most of our reads,
Yeah.
Castaneda, Gordon, Loopy.
Fascinated by decision. We always
mm,
like when we could get a decision line in there, right?
yeah,
Oh,
and I just think top to bottom, good fight. Josh Van put on a good fight. Emmers had a big knockout. I just think top to
the
bottom, the clean.
Andrade Dern fight had me very entertained. I will say
Yeah,
that was one that I did catch live, and all my buddies that were watching it were pretty entertained as well. And I told you, man, Jessica Andrade, she just like that. We have to value the experience on the men's MMA side. We also have to value it on the women's MMA side as well. And Jessica Andrade has it in spades. Shout out Mina Bay.
mhm,
And yeah, that was a great win by her. And that line steamed in the Mackenzie Dern side late, which was
yeah.
insane. So I did personally pick up some Andrade at like 205, 210. So that was definitely a good result there.
I
And
thought
I
it
had the
closed
under.
like 2:30. I thought it closed or something. I
Yeah,
thought
I
it
mean,
closed.
I wasn't. I that was good enough for me, Martian. I couldn't be glued to my goddamn phone.
That's true.
But the under was good too.
That fight was crazy because it seemed like Dern had absolutely no way of, like, winning the like, it seemed like she didn't know what she was doing. It seemed like she didn't know if she wanted to take down or to strike. It seemed like she was completely clueless out there from the moment the fight started. I've never really seen anything like that before.
Yeah, she had a
Just
hard time.
totally lost. Totally lost. But yeah, good
But I've
card.
never I've
Another
never been through a divorce, so I don't want to criticize a woman too much.
That's true. That young too, I mean, that's gotta be some crazy shit. Um,
Come to me, Mackenzie. We'll hold you down, girl.
yeah, well, can you grow an afro? Her last dude had an afro.
I can't. I think maybe she wants the audible from that. So
She'll probably hop on Peyton Talbot, after he gets the win this weekend, but, that's
spoiler
enough
alert.
that's enough about, last week. We got 14 fights to get into. A lot of lower level fights, a lot of guys coming off the Contender Series. We had a great card last week with a lot of notable fighters. This week, not so much. So, volatile fights, be aware of that, but we're starting things off in the main event in the middleweight division. Brendan All In Allen getting his first scheduled main event, taking on Paul Craig. Allen did fight in the main event versus Muniz on short notice, but this one's going 5 rounds. The odds for this one, Allen minus 450, Craig plus 350. Pretty easy fight, in my opinion, to break down. I mean, it's obviously Craig or pass. I like Brendan Allen a lot, but the guy steers into volatility. He just fought Silva. Bruno Silva was going toe to toe, just throwing bombs to them on the feet when that's Silva's only way to win the fight. And his wrestling didn't look good there. He was shooting takedowns. They were getting easily stuffed. So I don't see Brendan Allen losing the fight, but I also just think that he's volatile enough. Craig is opportunistic enough that this is a clear Craig 350 or pass. And I mean, the number 350, not bad for Paul Craig, where I feel like Allen is he's gonna do something stupid at some point to make this fight closer than it should be. So, um, That's enough about it for me. I'll pick Allen to win the fight by like sub in like the second or third or something, but
Mm.
no bets I like. What about you?
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, overall, I feel like Paul does have something to offer here just because, I was impressed in the last fight against Muniz how he was just able to initiate his grappling at this 185 weight. Right? How many fights has Craig had at 185? He
Just
had
one,
just
right?
one, right? So, right, only Muniz. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because it was definitely a big thing. So yeah, so he just showed a lot more. His conditioning I thought was a lot better at 185. So maybe that was because he had to invest, on the conditioning side. He still looks good as well. But yeah, the way that he was able to just initiate that wrestling and just use it to get top position might be, something that he's able to break out more often, as opposed to fighting guys like Walker, Ozdemir, Nikita, guys like that who are definitely stronger and able to stuff them a bit more. So, I'm actually kind of liking this fight potentially to go over 1.5, Martian, right? Your tried
Mm,
and true method of thinking that 5 rounder, maybe Brendan Allen, a little bit of more of a slow start, conserving some gas. Same thing for Craig. And Craig, sometimes he comes out a little bit timid, I think that Brendan Allen, if he sees opportunity and he sees Craig timid, he'll definitely go after him. But Craig is usually a methodical, or I think is a well thought out fighter. So I think he will try to steer, even when he is defensive, into making this a longer fight potentially, as opposed to just looking to snatch up positions and give up positioning. So I'm liking that at a pick 'em price. To have something invested in the main event, and then that gives us opportunity as well to flip that into maybe a Craig bet, right? Live bet. Once we do pocket that. So yeah, so I'll go with that, and hopefully root for a little bit of a longer fight, and not seeing Brendan Allen ice Paul early.
yeah. Well, if it stays standing, you envision Allen will win, right? Just by being like quicker.
Yeah, just quicker, and Paul, he throws a bunch of bad kicks. His hands are pretty nonchalant, or like not there. So I do think that Allen will be able to vary up the targets with the hands, and end up catching Paul on the chin. And Paul doesn't really have too much to offer in terms of striking, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. I'm interested to see how it looks on the ground. I think Paul is going to try to do that overhook thing he does with his arm and try to lock up some armbar. But I gotta think Brendan is well versed in the ground to avoid all that shit, and should win the fight. But over 1.5, I agree. And then that maybe look out for like a sub 2 or 3 line for Allen, in my opinion. But enough about that one. I think that even though it's not the greatest fight, I like that fight in the main event slot. Giving some guys that are active a chance. Co-main event: Jake Matthews, Michael Morales. And the odds for this one have Morales as the favorite, minus 320, Matthews plus 270. Your turn to start this one off.
Yeah, interesting fight here, I guess. A big prospect in Morales, getting a vet test in the I guess 28-year-old or whatever he is, Jake Matthews. I didn't really learn too much about Morales in the last fight that he had. It was kind of like a little bit of a slow, I mean, not a crazy pace. Max Griffin didn't really do his job, I felt, in that fight. Now, is Jake Matthews going to do his job in this fight? I don't really think so. When Jake is not really able to threaten, I feel, the grappling and the takedowns, I feel like he doesn't really have that much to offer. Obviously, the last fight he had, a late notice replacement at elevation, and even then, like, didn't that fight, he didn't really get going until like the second round. Like, he didn't really show a clear gap in the ability of them. So I honestly think Michael Morales is going to win this fight as well. And justify his pricing more than likely. I think the over 1.5, I would avoid it in this fight, just because Jake Matthews is just a quitter sometimes, dude. I hate Jake Matthews, honestly. But I do, and his chin has looked not the best against guys who are not even that great strikers. Like Matthew Summersberger is not that good of a striker, in my opinion. So I think Morales, just with his ability to wrestle and his ability to with his hands, is going to end up winning this fight. How is he going to do it? I'm not too sure. But I am maybe a little bit interested in maybe his minus point handicap. It's -3.5 at -165. It's a little juicy
Mm.
for Jig not to win a round. So hopefully maybe that comes down. But I think that would probably be one of the only ways that I would be looking to bet this fight. More than likely a pass for me though.
Yep, thinking along the same lines. Morales' hand speed use should win him the fight. Not really seeing any bets I like. I feel like Matthews will do well at times, but he'll also just find ways to lose key moments and rounds of the fight. I kind of see it being a Morales decision. Honestly, I think Jake might be tough enough to stick this one out. But it's only, let's see, what is it, 215? No, some books have it 265 for Morales. I think, if you could get like 250 on the decision, that would be good. Maybe just some GTD overall at plus 150. I think the chances of Morales finishing are getting a little overrated here. So enough about that one, though. Very highly anticipated fight in the lightweight division: Jordan Leavitt versus Chase Hooper. And in this one, we have Hooper as the favorite, -200. Levitt coming back +170. News came out today. This fight could get canceled because Jordan's
Jordan
wife.
Levitt fucks because
Yep.
Jordan Levitt fucks.
His wife might be going into labor. Hopefully, they can keep that baby up inside her. I wonder how many inches she's dilated right now. Maybe we can get like a day by day update on how dilated she is. You know about that, Oz? You know about how that works, dilation?
I don't know. I don't know shit about it.
Oh, really? Yeah, it's like the width of the opening. Anyway, so
Hmm.
Chase Hooper -200 Levitt here. I kind of lean this one being a little more competitive. Levitt at +170. He's not a guy I'm ever really interested in betting on, but I just think this fight is gonna be a little closer than these odds indicate. I think that Hooper probably getting a little overrated after his last win. And I think Levitt is just typically better than we like to give him credit for. Certainly that I like to give him credit for. I mean, I lost on that fucking bum he knocked out in his last fight. What was that guy's name? The
Victor
Hispanic guy?
Martinez.
Yeah, yeah. Pathetic. Anyway, definitely down lifetime on Jordan Levitt fights for me. So I'm a pass on this one from a money line, but I like the fight to go the distance. Just think that -120 is a little too generous for this one to go the distance. I mean, I just don't see that many finishes in this fight. What's the most common finish here, Ozzy? What do you think?
I mean, you saw the Hooper blitz in his last fight, correct? You saw him all over that ass. So, I mean, I don't know. I agree. I think this fight will go the distance because Hooper is just wormy enough. I don't like. I've never seen Hooper get even close to submitted, and this guy's wormy enough, and I think strong enough too to avoid Jordan from like getting him in positions like mount, back mount, stuff like that. And then as well, Jordan's a pretty smart grappler. So I feel the most likely way would be Jordan just getting tired from wrestling Hooper and Hooper like getting up and doing stupid shit, and then maybe Hooper hitting him with body shots and stuff like that, and just alpha dogging him and showing him what a real man looks like. So
Mm,
that's what I know.
interesting. So that's everything from you here. What would be your official
Uh,
pick? Hooper decision?
Yeah, I mean, I gotta just keep riding my boy Hooper, but I wouldn't lay this juice on Hooper, honestly. I mean, I was big on him in his last fight against Nick Fiore, or the
Mm,
artist formerly known as Nick Fiore. Um, you know, Obviously the community cash big on that, and a lot of people I like to fade Chase Hooper, talk shit about him. This guy's talented. He's gifted. I remember I told
mm.
one guy I had an argument with him, a Twitter fight where do you know where I'm going? Where
No.
I was like, well, honestly, Chase Hooper is a better MMA grappler than Kron Gracie. And the guy's like, what are you talking about? No way. Like, that's impossible. Kron Gracie would do this and that and the third. And we saw what happened to Kron Gracie
Yeah,
against, what's his name?
you're a million
Charles
percent right.
Jourdain. And bro, it's just different, dude. The MMA grappling is just different. Like, I don't know what to tell you guys. You guys that, not a shot at you, Martian, but guys that haven't fought MMA, or practice MMA jiu-jitsu, they really have no fucking clue. That's why I value a lot of people's grappling opinions in terms of MMA at zero, dude, or a little bit less, or a little bit more than zero, because it's really really different. And Chase Hooper is just a really good MMA grappler. But honestly, Jordan Levitt isn't the worst. But the thing with Jordan Levitt is he don't got that pace. Like Chase Hooper got so much dog in him that like it just fools people into thinking that it's really gonna be easy to do these kinds of things to him, and oh, I'm gonna tie him up, I'm gonna bully him, this and that. No, man, these guys, when they're squirming like that and they actually have like black belt knowledge in jiu-jitsu, it's different. So I wouldn't be surprised at a Chase Super finish. Let me see what his, no scorecards is minus 205. Like, there's no good. So, I like Chase Super here, though. I like him to win this fight. So, I would be interested in getting in on him live. Maybe if Jordan gets a takedown early on in the first round. And so, we'll see. But I'm on the goes the distance officially.
Yeah, and just based on the Puelas fight, man, I think you gotta favor Hooper here. I mean, Levitt just did not look good down the stretch there, did not look good on bottom. And like you said, if Hooper ends on bottom here in, let's say, the second or third round, I am way, way more confident that he's gonna be able to like work his way back up and, turn the fight around, while we've seen Levitt accept that bottom in rounds 2 and 3 versus Puelas. So,
He likes bottom.
and next fight on the main card, interesting fight on the main card. The UFC seems to like this Peyton Talbot kid taking on Nick-Aguirre. Odds for this one have Talbot minus 800, Aguirre plus 550. Um, any thoughts here?
Dude, I'll be honest with this fight. I barely looked at it. I saw Peyton Talbot's last fight on the Contender Series. Nick Aguirre, I kid you not, I know every MMA fighter in the UFC. I don't remember one iota of his fight against Dan Argetta. Nothing.
Mhm.
I don't remember. I
Totally
just
forgot about.
that only that Dan got his back multiple times. That's all I remember. And I
Mhm.
thought that this guy would be one and done. But yeah, I mean Peyton Talbot, he's long, he's lanky, he throws a lot of, he throws a lot of strikes. A lot of his strikes, though, in my opinion, just have no power. So you got to really kind of be like weaving into him or something like that. Excuse me, for him to knock you out. But that's probably gonna happen. But you know what? I'm gonna pick Peyton Talbot by submission. That's gonna
Yeah,
be my pick on the fight, and that's
same.
it.
Likewise, plus 1200. I mean, the KO is 240 and then the sub is 1200. Rewatching that Talbot's last fight, man, he doesn't just come off as a knockout striker to me. I mean, I think he's more of like a methodical striker. I hate to make the Alex Caceres comparison because they both got the afro going on, but like he uses his length well, and he doesn't strike me as like overly aggressive or powerful. I think he puts a good amount into his shots and doesn't overextend himself. So I could see him stumbling a gear here, but I also imagine a gear will be trying to grapple here because he's just going to be at a major, major speed disadvantage on the feet. So let's say the striking's not going his way, he's going to try to mix it up and shoot a takedown. If he gets hurt by a strike, he's probably going to shoot a takedown. And I feel Talbot, has got a little, club and sub equity in here. He could, snatch a neck if a gear leaves his neck out. He does. I think he has one pro sub and maybe one amateur sub. So I'm sure he's perfectly capable of submitting him here. So, yeah, plus 1200 on that on our boy Peyton by sub. He will officially be our boy if he cashes that ticket. So, moving on to the first women's fight we're discussing on the card, we got another one coming up later, but main card, the return of Amanda Ribas taking on Luana-Pinheiro. Nice Brazilian showdown here, going with Ribas minus 230, Pinheiro plus 195. So Ribas coming off that, ass whooping she took versus Macy Barber just 5 months ago. I mean, she did get rattled around there. I doubt that, we're gonna see, her be coming back too soon. But I mean, Ribas's chin at this point, man, is just bad. I mean, Marina Rodriguez chinned her, Barber fucked her up. Not that it really matters versus Pinheiro, but I have very little faith in Ribas's future as an MMA fighter, honestly. But Pinheiro, I've always kind of maintained that she stinks. Um, This fight though, I could see it coming down to a couple of takedowns. A judo throw here and there for Pinheiro. I think they're going to be doing a lot of wild swinging on the feet. I think that they're probably going to lock up at some point, and one woman's going to land a sloppy takedown, and it's going to be a close decision. And what we saw last week versus Loopy, and we bet Loopy at juice there, right, Ozzy? We bet her -130, something like
Indeed,
that. So we bet
indeed.
her -130. She closed -220. We beat the line by 10%. Okay. I thought she won all 3 rounds. Okay. So we beat the line by 10%. She won all 3 rounds, and we still scraped by a split decision where one judge actually
That
gave
was
all three.
crazy.
So it's like this women's MMA juice, man. Like we did it and got away with it last week, but it's not good. And even though I think Pinheiro stinks, I think that she's the side at this fight. What about your logic about the jungle fight here, Ozzy? Talk about the jungle fight logic on this one, if you will.
Yeah, so this is obviously a jungle fight, 115 title fight, right? Amanda Ribas has a linear, like she took it from, or she won it. She put it up for grabs a few times in UFC, right? She
Mm,
fought against Marina, whatever, but they gave the belt back to her, and she beat Genji Roba. She beat Viviani, and now we got the contender. This is the next hot jungle fight. She's literally hot, 93 girl, right? She's defending the 93 title is here as well for the Brazilian women. So in a fight like this, I just can't lay the juice, dude. I just can't do it because Pinheiro, she throws heat, she throws hard strikes. She's a little frantic, fidgety in there. But he boss, like you said, I mean, I'm not as low on her as you just because she lost to Macy Barber. Low key, she was winning that fight, but Macy Barber, she on that alpha male testosterone or something. Maybe,
was
she
she?
might be she's probably rubbing up on a lot of them dudes in there, bro. And she's probably getting some of that residual juice on her. So it caused a hard time for my girl Amanda. But I mean, I'm looking for Amanda live bet, dude, because if
Mm,
Pinheiro's gonna win, dude, she's gonna come out strong, dude. She gotta win the first round if she's
that's
gonna beat
true.
Amanda.
She fade.
And she fades, dude. And Amanda never stops moving, dude. This girl, she moves a lot. She's got a 4-inch reach advantage. She definitely has the kicking advantage here. She's back at 115, Martian. That's what you're not
Yep.
remembering, right? This fight's back at 115 for my girl Amanda. So I think she's gonna get it done, honestly. But I can't really lay the juice. I don't think she's gonna submit Pinhead. I don't think she's gonna finish her. So I wouldn't be opposed to some Amanda by decision line here.
Hmm.
Here. And then obviously looking for a live bet. So that's what I'm going with.
That's a good way to
Minus
good way to put
200,
it.
-200 for the over or -170 for goes the distance, though. Kind of intriguing.
-170. You said, yeah, I agree.
I mean, Amanda decision. I mean, and I'm looking on Bet Online prices is -140, and the
Oof.
goes the distance is -170, dude.
Yeah,
So
you'd be a
yeah,
fool to not to take that. But the one thing I
definitely.
would be concerned about is that Pinheiro in 2 and 3 does, slow it, and Ribas puts a pace on. But I really don't think Pinheiro is finishing at all. And a Ribas finish would be pretty like correlated with Pinheiro gassing. So that's probably good on -170 there. But um yeah, that's an okay women's fight there. And that's enough
Why you
about that
acting
one.
surprised? Why you saying that like that was surprising to you?
Because that's like a very rare thing. It's very rare.
Okay.
Sorry, Minna, one of our most devout listeners. The only women worthwhile. It's Angela Hill, it's Karolina Kovacevic, it's Aaron Blanchfield.
Okay. Interesting.
It's about it. Oh, I'm excited for Raquel Pennington's fight. Whoever she's fighting.
Ready.
Uh, who is that? Who is that she's fighting?
Bueno Silva.
Oh yeah. There you go. Um, last fight on the main card here. Well, for us, it is first fight actually. Short notice fight: Uros Medic, Medic-Orolbai. In the
That
short
was a
notice
good
one.
job.
Nice, yeah. We got Orolbai -170, Medic +145. It's Matabek, guys. You know how there's all those Y's and K's and T's in his name? Just imagine they're like they're A's. Matabek Orolbai. And I think is it your turn to start it off or is it mine?
Just go,
Yeah,
bro. Just
yeah,
go.
you're right. You're right. Um, I got Orolbai here. I think he's going to close the distance, land the takedowns. It's short notice, but it's a small cage. Medic is staying up at 170 after that short notice fight versus Semmelsberger last time. And I think he's gonna be a little undersized here. I think he's gonna be at a big grappling disadvantage, and I just think Orolbai is not gonna fool around at distance. He knows that the Medic is a dangerous southpaw striker. He's not gonna fool around at kicking range. He's gonna close the distance, spam kicks, spam right hands, close the distance, clasp his hands, and take this guy down over and over again. I don't think Orolbai's um, top game is amazing. I don't think he does too well at controlling his opponents once he gets them down, but he's perfectly capable of taking you down over and over, mat returning you, dragging you back down 5, 10, 15 times if he needs to do it. And I think he'll do it here even on short notice. I mean, he was just fighting 3 weeks ago, fought an absolute bum. In a hilarious knockout and fight overall. So I got Orolbai. And before I pass it over to you, did you watch that most recent fight against the Afro bum?
No, I don't watch that fight, dude.
Damn, bro. This guy was like he was like plus 1200 and had no business being in there and got absolutely clobbered into the next century.
Nice, good to hear. Yeah, I have watched this Orolbai guy though. I watched him against Fuller. I had him against Fuller, and I watched the fight after that. And he's from Kyrgyzstan, right? He's a Stan.
No, 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 not. Oh, is
Kyr,
it Kurz? Is it Kurz?
Kyr,
Oh, yeah, you're
Kyr,
right. You're right. My bad.
Kyrgyzstan. Is that
He's got a
what
cool
was it?
hat.
What was the last stand we've been talking about? Tajikistan, right?
Yeah, Tajik. Yeah.
These stands is taking over, dude. And this guy looks like Genghis Khan would be proud, dude. He's gonna make Khan proud because I think he's gonna win this fight. Honestly, I think it will be a good fight. I do think it will be a good fight because I do not think what you just said. You said that you don't think he's gonna mess around standing. I do think he's gonna fuck around a little bit on the feet. But I think he's got the consistency and the cardio to go for takedowns where he needs to. But he's got some power in his hands, low key. And Medic, I mean, Medic, I do think he himself is improving. Excuse me, since he's left and gone to Utah to train. So I don't think he trains with Cordero and those guys at Kings anymore. He's at the pit or whatever they call it in Utah. So I think Medic is gonna have good cardio. I think he's gonna, but this is a tough short notice guy to get, especially when you're fighting Johnny Parsons. Johnny Parsons, all he wants to do is bang with you. He's a Muay Thai guy, right? Like very, very easy guy to prepare for. So I think this is gonna be a tough fight for Eros. So I do like this other guy. Even with the juice, I mean, minus 170, a little bit steep to pay. But I don't think he's gonna finish Eros, honestly. So whenever his decision line comes up, I'm playing that.
Mm. That's good. Yeah, from what I've seen, he doesn't really land a ton of ground and pound, or he doesn't really go for submissions ever. He goes for a little bit of ground and pound, but yeah, that's not a bad angle. And I don't see him, spamming ground and pound with his cardio being on short notice. He's probably going to be looking to conserve energy and just grind this one out in a safe fashion. That's going to move us on to the prelims. Nicholas Motta taking on Trey Ogden here. Closely lined fight um, with Motta as the favorite, minus 128, Ogden plus 108. Your turn to start this one off in the lightweight division.
Yes, this fight I've been going back and forth in regards to do I want to invest in Trey Ogden? Okay, so I'm not betting on Nicholas Motta. My boy got absolutely flattened in his last fight, and I make it a habit. I don't like betting on guys when they got brutally knocked out and they're back within like how many months? Like 4 or 5 months, whatever it is. But Motta's always had a bad chin, dude. He's got 4 knockout losses. Reminds me of some other dude. I forgot who's the other guy that I'm like, man, this guy either not gets knocked out or he went whatever. But Ogden obviously has no KO power. But he's been accustomed to me staying safe in these striking fights and stuff like that. And then I do think that Motta, he loves throwing that left hook. So I do see Trey Ogden honestly being able to like bait Motta in and then take his ass down. And from there, Motta, he's like the kind of Brazilian that he's like, and don't get me wrong, I'm not gonna. He's not Alex Pereira, but he's like that kind of Brazilian that for somehow They grow up in Brazil, have no idea how to do jiu-jitsu at all. And Motta is one of those guys. But what I do like more is this fight to go to decision. Is again, so this fight going to decision. What's his name? Trey Ogden's never been finished or never been knocked out. I think all his wins are kind of by submission. But I think that once he does take Motta down, he's really gonna be looking to hold him and hug him, very, very tightly. So maybe he could submit him, but I doubt it, dude. So I liked him to win by decision here, or as well. So I'm gonna invest in that. I'm gonna take the goes the distance and this motherfucker Trey Ogden to win by decision. He's probably gonna bone me. He's probably gonna get knocked out, get hit by like an uppercut, hook, cross combo, and be completely flattened. But Nicholas Motta's just not a good fighter, dude. I just don't think this guy is very good overall. He had to pull out of his last fight for God knows why. Gets knocked out too often. I'm not interested, dude. So Trey Ogden for me as the pick and goes the distance as the bet.
Yeah, money line. I sort of see where the line is at now as being accurate. I wouldn't fault anybody for taking the early Ogden line, but to me, I'm sticking with just the goes the distance. I'm in agreement here. Got that at plus 145. I hope it's opened up on more books now, but I feel like the domestic books have been pretty slow with this one, with copying the props lately. But Ogden, yeah, like you mentioned, 22 pro fights, never been knocked out, never won by knockout. That's pretty insane to go that many fights without a single knockout happening. But it just shows that this guy on the feet, he kind of spars, in my opinion. Like he doesn't really throw hard at anything. And that's why I sort of lean Mota here because I just think that when the fight's on the feet, I think Mota has the better chance at landing like the hard shots. And even though the Braun goes the distance, I kind of see Mota KO being the most likely finish. You mentioned Ogden possibly submitting, but I don't see that personally. But I just think this line is getting way overvalued for the finishes. I think it's based on Mota's record. He pretty much all of his fights do finish. He hasn't had many decisions. Only 4 wins by decision. No losses too, so he's undefeated by decisions. But if you just look on his record, there's a lot of finishes on there. So I think that it's kind of like a weak cap line. I think that line is off, and that's why I'm taking it for a unit. And but yeah, like you said, Ogden 3-1 for decision. I think he is the more like cerebral fighter of the two. I think he's got a good idea of what he wants to do in there. Former James Krause prospect as well, and Breeden did real well. So maybe these guys are kind of going on their Glory MMA redemption arc,
Is
if
there
you
another
will.
guy? There was another guy that went over there, right? Who's the other guy?
Um,
Breeden and someone else. Damn,
Tim
it's gonna
Elliott,
bother me.
he had a rough one lately.
Tim Elliott, but there's probably someone else. But yeah,
Is
whatever.
it?
Move on.
Yeah. Um,
We're not gonna figure that one
Women's
out.
bantamweight, second women's fight on the card. Lucy Pudilova taking on All In Perez. Odds for this one have Perez minus 184, Pudilova plus 159. People are loving Perez this week. A lot of syndicates behind her, and I don't know, man. I'm not gonna bet this woman at juice. I think it's probably Pudilova or pass. And it just seems like whoever comes out on top is gonna win. And Perez just absolutely destroyed AES in her last fight. Had a million opportunities to finish, but couldn't. So I think that betting on her to finish would be very foolish here. So I see some people talking about maybe Pudilova no scorecards. But it's not bad because when Pudilova gets on top, she's a lot more fierce with her ground and pound than Perez is. And I could see, Perez quit versus Edgar too. That was a total quit job in that fight. So I wouldn't be, I don't knock anybody taking that Pudilova no scorecards. But this is another fight, kind of a theme of the card where the favorite is just too juiced to be appealing, but the underdog is not quite appealing enough for me to take that line. And that this fight kind of fits that narrative as well. What are you thinking here, Ozzy?
Interesting, interesting. Yeah, this fight, a lot of fanfare on this fight. But I'll tell you that my OnlyFans fade senses are tingling here, man. We saw All In. She mentioned today at her media or whatever it was, like she shows up with like stitches under her eye, and they're like, oh, she can still fight this, that, and the third, whatever it is. I don't know. Girl's giving me some weird vibes, but just going down to the tape, obviously against Ashley Evans-Smith, the girl looked good. She got a lot of good takedowns, a lot of takedowns that you seldom see in the women's division. These nice body lock trips. Some single leg takedowns. Her mat wrestling was good as well. But I mean, this girl Ashley Evans-Smith was getting out from under her multiple times. And Pudilova's a grizzled vet on the female side, right? I think what's the experience difference here? I think Pudilova has like 22 fights, I believe, and Allen's like at like 10 or something like that. I'm confirming that as I go.
That's
But
correct.
yeah, 22 and 10, yeah. So Pudilova, this is her second stint in the UFC. She's been doing these ADCC trials, tournaments, this, that, and the third. I think she just did like two or three of them. She took like second at the European trials. And her top game is good. Like she could definitely get takedowns. I think that All-In will be the stronger girl in there for sure. But on the feet, she doesn't really throw punches that have good arcs on them. I just don't think that she's a threat at all to Pudilova on the feet. So all Pudilova has to do is stifle some of the wrestling. I feel. I think that she has the better conditioning here. She throws the better strikes. And when she does get good positioning, I think she is a much more dangerous and aggressive fighter. And she's been to 16 decisions, for God's sake. So the girl's got a lot of rounds under her belt. And
Mm.
I'm getting her at plus 160, 165. I think some places you can find. Definitely a bet for me. I already invested in it a little bit. And I just think, and she's got a little bit of reach advantage. I just think this is a solid fight overall. To be on the dog here, I know some people that picked up like minus 135, minus 140 on All-In Perez. I guess I could understand it there. But other than that, I just think recency bias on beating a girl in Ashley Evans-Smith, who's fucking
Bum.
6-6, dude, and 36 years old, 6'6", 36. That's a big no, bro, boys and girls. 3 and 4 in decisions, 2 submission loss. Like the girl's trash, dude. And just taking her down over and over and over again and fucking twerking after it is
Mm.
not something that really makes me interested. So I'll take the more experienced MMA fighter, more dangerous, and well versed in all areas at dog price for sure. Give me
And
that all
the
day.
recency behind Pudilova getting robbed in her last fight, one of the worst decisions of the entire year in that fight. I think Pudilova closed like minus 8,500 or something like that and still lost the decision. So that could definitely be affecting the line here. Next fight, heavyweight fight, Mick Parkin taking on Kyle Machado, two guys coming off the Contender Series. Parkin is the big favorite here at minus 330, Machado plus 270. I didn't look into this one. I've been hearing that Machado sucks, and Parkin looked pretty functional and good in his fight against Pogue, so I'll side with Parkin as the money line play, and no real thoughts on this one for me. What about you?
Yeah, I usually don't lay juice, but I got McParkin, dude. I got McParkin, at around like minus 300. And I honestly think this guy's a free square this week. Machado, even in that fight against whatever his last name is, looked completely uninterested, even at points where he could have, pushed the pace more, moved forward, did this, that, and third. This guy's got the ugliest striking you'll ever see, just these weird like looping, like reaching shots. It just like you're surprised that that's worked against anyone. A bunch of his fights before Contender Series were against a 55-year-old that he fought 2 times, and this other guy who is I think somewhat similar in age to that. Um, and yeah, I just think that Mick Parkin's just much more well-rounded, trains with a good camp, can win the fight, in every area, whether it be on the feet, the clinch, or on the ground. And yeah, I think he's definitely gonna. I would be very surprised if Kyle won. I would be very surprised.
Yeah, just looking at the props for this one, the over is minus 200. So they think it's 67% likely to finish over 1.5. But then Parkin ITD is also favored at minus 170. That I think one of those lines has to be wrong. So based on that, I think Parkin decision 350 seems good. I've heard people talking about that line too. So that might be a prop or stab in here. And Parkin in his last fight against Pokes never really seemed to step on the gas. He was kind of just cruising and out striking them the entire time. So maybe we'll see that again. But next fight on the card is one of the best ones, I think, possibly the best fight on the card, featherweight division. Jonathan Pearce taking on Joe Anderson Brito. We have Pearce here minus 128, Brito plus 108. Your turn to start this one off in the featherweight division.
Yes, you got Bricked Up Brito and Pierce is 145 weight class, always dynamic. My one of my favorite weight classes. Interesting fight between two guys that have a good amount of experience. My trepidation with Pierce is he's been out like 11 months. I think it was an injury that forced him to pull out of I forget which fight exactly he pulled out of. But it's a tougher first fight to come back to because Brito has power, has gone, 3 rounds a few times, albeit he has slowed down, but he knows how to wrestle and he knows jujitsu as well. So I don't think this is a layup fight like how some people are acting because I don't think Brito is going away, honestly, overall. So I'm kind of thinking I'm thinking contrarian as opposed to some other people and thinking that this fight could go either over the 2.5 or go all the way to the distance. Obviously, Brito's got 3 round 1 finishes in a row, right? Great counter cross against Feely, overwhelmed Lucas Alexander and, did whatever he wanted to that last dude. But, I
Poor
think
guy.
that, yeah, that poor dude. But I think that JSP will obviously be looking to take him down, but I don't think it'll be easy. So I think he'll have to work for it. I think that Brito's not going to really fold either. Let me see. Has Brito ever even been finished, dude? He's been finished, or once by submission, once by knockout. But JSP is not that great of a finisher. He's really looking to put a pace on you, and then as he chips away with the ground and pound and stuff like that. But he couldn't get C-Rod out of there, couldn't get Elkins out of there. Even Makwan and Omar Morales, it took him a while. Kai Kamaka, the Kai Kamaka one was funny, but I just think a lot of his fights, like they're like corner stoppages, freaking late round 2 stoppage, or round 3 stoppage. So I'm going contrarian here. I'm taking this over 2.5 and goes the distance. I do think that Pierce eventually will land some takedowns, but I think that Brito would just be spunky and he's going to be getting up back up to his feet. And I think we'll see some cage wrestling here. I think it'll look a lot like the Omar Morales fight, but with Brito not going down to the ground as easy as Omar did and having more offense overall. So, and the line is going in Brito's direction. So my pick is over and goes the distance.
Yeah, great fight. I really like this one. I think both these guys are good fighters. Um, and I just think that Brito will give Pierce trouble early. Maybe his takedown defense holds up early. Maybe he's able to land a hard shot early on. But I just really favor the pace of Pierce in this fight. And I think that if this one gets into the second and third round, I really do favor Pierce to take over on cardio, wrestling, and just to get on top here. Based on what I saw from Brito in the Algio fight, it just seems like his cardio is not really suited for a 3 round fight. Even in the Lopes fight, we saw, he's a very burst oriented fighter. He'll throw a big combination and then go for a takedown. But I don't see this guy having like a consistent 15 minutes of cardio. So if he ends on bottom in the second or third round here, I don't really see him working his way up too easily. While Pierce, I think, really thrives later in fights. We saw him break several guys late in fights recently, and I favor him to do that again here. I'm Pierce money line before the fight because I'm confident in my read in the later portion of the fight. But I wouldn't be surprised at him, dropping round one or having a bad moment around one here. So I'm looking to maybe even add more to Pierce here. In the live line, and I actually don't like the over here like Ozzy does. I just think that if Pierce gets his game going and if Brito slows like I expect him to, I think the top game finish of Pierce is going to look very live here in the second and third. And also in that Algio fight versus Brito, he's throwing these big punches, then he would attempt a takedown and Bill would stuff it. And Bill would maybe land his own takedown. And Bill even got on top in the third round and had maybe a back take at one point. Uh, so what I saw there really didn't like it, and I think that that's why I'm favoring Pierce to win this fight down the stretch. Uh, a good one there. I'm excited for that one. Bantamweight fight next. Chad and Heiliger taking on Jose Johnson. Odds for this one have Johnson the favorite minus 180 and Heiliger plus 155. So weird fight here, man. I don't have a ton of confidence, but I'm leaning siding with the dog in Chad here. I think this both these guys present a unique matchup for each other because both are bad grapplers, right? Most of their opponents are trying to take them down, especially Johnson. But neither of these guys are offensive wrestlers, so I think this fight's going to look a lot different than these guys' most recent fights, especially for Johnson because a lot of his fights lately the guy's been either trying to take him down, Blackshear, Cartwright, Mo Miller. Um, but then he also had some fights that ended right away. Mana Martinez and Dulane Perry fights ended in 30 seconds. So I feel like this fight we just haven't seen much from Johnson lately. How is he going to fare against a guy who keeps the fight standing and is willing to strike with them? And I think he actually is going to struggle here. I think Chad's boxing is going to give him problems. I actually don't mind the striking of Anheilger, even though he is old. He's 36. He's pretty late into his career already, and I think he just got into the UFC a little too late. So I don't expect many things, big wins from Anheilger going forward. But I actually think he's going to give Jose a tough fight here. Jose is going to have 6 inches of height on this one, but yeah, I just expect a close, scrappy, striking fight, and I'll side with the dog in this one. But I feel like this is going to be a split decision. By the way.
No, it's not happening. Jose Johnson is gonna absolutely destroy Chad in this fight. Anywhere the fight goes, I'm pretty confident that I mean the strength of opposition that these two guys have fought, Martian, is totally like it cannot even be compared, like at all. Like this guy's fought multiple guys that have fought in the UFC, have fought at a high level MMA overall. And what is Chad doing, dude? I don't even know. Like that last fight against Alatong is an absolute indictment, dude. Like you cannot be getting rocked on the feet by Alatong like that so easily. And for me to pick you to win a UFC fight, I mean, he was losing to Jesse Schrader, in my opinion, who's got 7 MMA fights, or he had 6 MMA fights, and we've never seen that guy again. Have we seen it? Has he fought again? I don't even know.
I don't know.
He's one of the only, he fought Montel and Chad. He's one of the only guys ever who they brought into UFC and they haven't given 3 fights. Have you ever noticed that? They usually give guys 3 fights when they come in. They honor, they'll give you a 4-fight contract, but
Looks
they'll
like
at
he
least
missed weight
honor
for one of them. That's why.
whatever. But they'll honor 3 fights. But he sucks. Point is, and he was beating Chad. Jose's in a butcher Chad, dude. He's at a 7.5-inch reach advantage. He's competent on the ground. People talk shit about his ground game. He's good at separating hands if you take him down. He's scrappy as fuck. He's got good butterfly guard sweeps. He'll go for a guillotine or two. He's got a guard game. His wrestling is just bad. He doesn't have good wrestling. But guess who doesn't also have good wrestling? Chad doesn't have good wrestling. Chad's even gotten submitted. I looked at Chad before his contender fight, and they were saying how Chad was saying how he used to train with like absolute nobodies. Like most of his MMA career was, I trained with nobodies, whatever. I had to work on my ground game. He's like a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, dude, and he just opened up his like own bullshit ass gym. So Jose actually got like whatever LASIK surgery, eye surgery. He got some eye surgery. He's seeing better, and he's gonna see Chad's little ass fists and short ass T-Rex arms coming, and he's gonna sight this guy. So I'm actually liking him to finish here, but on the money line, I don't mind it. But I would play this fight under, honestly, to get exposure to both guys. If you're more on the Martian side or you're more undetermined on the winner, because dude Chad is now winning a decision, bro. It's just not happening. So I think he's just gonna have to catch Jose. I mean, Jose's got a long neck. He's got, sometimes his hands are down, stuff like that. Maybe Chad could hit him with a counter shot, but I just like this fight to go under
What are
for
the
Jose
odds?
to finish him. I mean the under is minus 105, or you could doesn't go the distance at minus 135, and Jose to finish is plus 150. So I like Jose to finish this guy at some point. But to be safe, you could take the money line. I like the money line up to 200. Honestly, I just don't think Chad is a competent MMA fighter, especially with all these physical disadvantages. He doesn't even have the skill advantage. What is Chad better at than Jose? Nobody could tell me there's one thing he's better at than him.
Boxing.
So no, he's not. He sucks at boxing, bro.
Clinch knees. Chad's got some good clinch knees.
Bro, if they go to the clinch, Jose's gonna kill him. So
Jose does
Jose
have a
Jose
a
Johnson.
mythical way of finishing fights, like that elbow that he fucking paralyzed that guy with.
Yeah, you think that Chad could do that to someone?
I don't know. I know a Chad from Canada, and that guy's an absolute stud. And
Yeah.
I don't know any
There's
stud.
only one. There's
I
only
don't
room
know.
for one of them.
I don't know
There's
any
only room
stud
for one.
Dominicans, so that's why I got to go with Chad.
Yeah,
Um,
except for Waldo, who you fuck, who's that guy that you bet on against? Lucas
Bresky,
Bresky. You
yeah,
fucking moron. Yeah, you idiot.
yeah.
You were
Those
what?
two.
What were you saying? What were you saying after that fight? No, no, no. Ozzy's biting into the hype. Yeah, you moron.
That was just a bad iteration, as you like to say.
Yeah, you're a
Um,
fucking idiot.
Flyweight fight next. Charles Johnson, Rafael Esta. I'm glad that we're disagreeing on that one. We've had a lot of consensus throughout this card, so it'll be a good one to go opposite ways on. Charles Johnson taking on Rafael Estevam in the flyweight division next, and Estevan's making his debut, but he's favored -150. Johnson +130. Estevam getting respect. He's making his debut here, but he's favored over Johnson, who's got multiple UFC fights. Your turn to start this one off.
Estevam, my boy, Nova União in the house. I got my boy Rafael. I bet him early on. I will disclose. I would not endorse maybe laying too much juice here. -150. That's a little steep. I honestly thought this would stop at like -135, -140. But Chad Johnson, I think his Twitter, the Twitter crowd has left the station. They're not interested anymore. He's bamboozled them once or twice. My main thing with Charles is he's got skills, man. He's got cardio for one. His strike, he moved. He's got some hand speed, stuff like that. But the guy, he doesn't sit down on the strikes. He's got chicken legs, so easy to kick. And anytime you force him to grapple, dude, you could tell that he starts to wilt, dude. Like you could tell that his energy systems just start going down. He starts losing confidence, and I think that's what's going to happen here. And the only difference is that I think Rafael is actually going to start to implement jujitsu and ground game and advancing positions, as opposed to some of these other guys who kind of were just cool to just get the takedown, ride him out a little bit, this or that. If I were to like um Charles, I would think that maybe him late props just because he does have great cardio. He does get started. He started slow, and Rafael obviously missed weight against Zumagulov. But I think Rafael's gonna whip his ass early, dude. I think that he's gonna get these takedowns and he's gonna run circles around him. So I didn't make a huge bet on him when I got him early, but I do like him here. Just stylistic matchup, 125 grapplers. I usually like to be on that side of things, but he hasn't fought in a while. The guy that he fought on Contender was a total layup, total bomb. But I think this guy's good, and I think that he's gonna win UFC fights. And I think Charles is unfortunately probably on his way out, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm not gonna get too invested into the fight. At this point as well, I'm not gonna, go in again. But I would be interested if the line came down or if there was a good prop thing, prop line, which I haven't really seen for this fight. But I'm just not a fan of Charles overall. I would maybe I would try to cover myself with like a late round prop, but I think he's gonna lose this fight at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm in mostly agreement there. I mean, Esteban is a pressure grappler, right? And that's the type of fighter that I would not want to bet Charles against because when the fight is standing, I guess Charles should be the better striker of the two, but he just doesn't have power and he doesn't really have good initiative in some of these fights. He lets like his opponent come to him. He doesn't ever really set the tempo, I feel. And I feel he always is like working from a deficit. He always starts losing and he has to work his way back into the fight. I mean, that's kind of been the case with every single one of his fights except for Jimmy Flick, right? The Zalgas fight, he was losing the first half. O'Day first rounds, Cody first round, Mokaev all the rounds. So I think he's a slow starter, and the small cage I don't think is good for him here. I just don't think his footwork is really good enough to stay off the cage. So Estevan's striking is pretty basic, but he's just spamming right kicks, spamming right hands, going to close the distance, get the takedowns. I think he will definitely take Charles down here, and I'm almost positive Charles is going to be a bigger underdog live. So if you like Charles, I expect him to lose the first round. And, you can probably get in on Charles at big dog money in between the first and second round. And I think there is a good question of Estevan's cardio going to hold up. Uh, he only really has 2 fights available. A lot of his fights before that aren't really available on the internet. Maybe like way, way back they are, but there's a good maybe 5 or 6 fighting. All of his Shuto Brazil fights are missing or are hard to track down. So I don't think we really know what we're going to get from his cardio, but um, like I said, I think this line is pretty accurate, and you might as well just wait to take Charles live because I think that's always a good play with him. Maybe some Charles round 3 as well. I'm assuming that's at least like 15 to 1 or something. I would hope. Let's see. 16 to 1. There we go. So not a bad stab on that one. And enough about that. We're moving on to the featherweight division. Lucas Alexander, Saragih. Odds for this one: Alexander minus 510, Saragih plus 395. I mean, uh, yeah, Saragih is kind of a role player. This guy just swings wild and doesn't really have much skill anywhere. Uh, this guy's just no good. So I think Alexander is going to piece him up, be way longer, way better striker, way faster, and he's just going to, land for free on Jekka here. So only way I could see this one playing is the under 1.5. I think Sergey's just going to swing wild, and Alexander is just going to be hitting him for free. So maybe you just play this one under and hope these guys swing to the death. But yeah, anything for you here?
Don't have anything on this fight. Alexander does train down here where I'm at now in Orlando, so I'll root for him. But I feel like he doesn't have too much punching power, so I wouldn't be
Hmm.
surprised at this going all 3 rounds.
That's true. Not a bad point there. He doesn't really sit. I mean, especially in the Peterson fight, he wasn't really sitting down on anything there. So my reason on the under is I think Jekka is just gonna push the pace, be aggressive, and I don't see him like, sitting back and getting outstruck to a decision. I think he's gonna go for broke, swing wild, and try to make something happen, and either get a knockout or get knocked out. So last fight is a middleweight fight, a short notice fight. Christian Leroy Duncan was supposed to fight some other guy, Almeida something. Instead, he's taking on the legend Dennis Tiuliulin coming in here on short notice, and they have Duncan minus 400 plus 300 for Tiuliulin. Any faith in the Russian dog here, Dennis Tiuliulin?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like Dennis Sullivan to potentially be able to dirty this fight up a little bit. Obviously, there's an athletic and a speed disadvantage, but luckily for Tululin, Duncan probably is not looking to take him down, which is obviously his kryptonite. So we could get a striking fight here, and both these guys are a little taller for the weight class. I guess they got a similar reach, so I don't mind the dog shot on Dennis Tululin because what's his name? Duncan, he just be throwing spinning back kicks and all this dumb shit. So Tululin or pass for sure. Maybe I'm looking for see what the totals come out at. They haven't come
I
out yet.
totally agree. Um, I think that it's probably just going to be a war on the feet, and I could see Tululin having a chance. But I mean, he really has horrible cardio. He's a terrible grappler to where the point Duncan doesn't go for takedowns, but if he really wanted to, I think he could take Dennis down here. And for a guy who has horrible cardio on a full camp, short notice is probably real bad for him. But yeah, I'd probably think I'm overthinking it. It's probably just going to be a small bet on Dennis, and hope for the best, hope for a war, and just Christian Leroy, one of his former opponents, Will Curry, picked up some nice win a couple weeks ago. That win continues to age really well. That guy's a really really good grappler, Will Curry. So
Relax. Take it easy.
um, yeah, so that's enough about that one. The whole card is done. I made this point last week that for the FMK, not last week, but 2 weeks ago, you gave me 3 winners, I gave you 3 losers. What happened this past week? You gave 3 winners, I gave 3 losers. I did the Northeast guys, Bazookia, Frivola, Sabatini. Not only did they all lose, they all got viciously knocked out in the first round. And then we had Aspinall, Lupi, Castaneda, who all did well. So I'm gonna let you go first with giving me your FMKs.
Okay, sure. All right. So Martian, I'm gonna mix in a prop on in this bitch too. All right, so first I'm gonna give you Nicholas Motta-Odgen goes the distance. So specifically not the over, goes the distance, even money. Okay. I'm gonna give you um Jonathan Pearce. Okay. And then last, I will give you what how do you pronounce the new guy that Uros is fighting? What's his how do
Or
you
lobby.
or Lobby. All right. Fuck Mary
Orolbai.
Kill.
Orolbai. Sorry.
Orolbai minus 170.
Okay, so let's see. Okay. So I would fuck the Ogden GTD. I would
Okay.
marry JSP, and then I would kill Orolbai.
Orolbai is gonna be tough to kill, dude. Be careful.
She is, but those are good lines. I think those are 3 winners. It's really even money for the GTD now in that fight. Um,
Yeah.
I bet
Mm-hmm.
145. Well, I'm fucking sitting pretty. Got 10% value points. Where I wonder where I can cash in those value points at. Okay. For you, I got a little bit different lines here. I got one favorite, one dog, and then one plus money prop. So starting it off with your boy, Jose Johnson, minus 180. Okay. Then
Yes.
we got Puda rocking everywhere. Pudilova plus 159.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have uh Mick Parkin decision at plus 350.
Oh shit. Oh, okay. So who was the first one again? Sorry.
Jose Bobby Johnson.
Jose Bobby Johnson. Okay. Jose Bobby Johnson, Lucy Pudilova, and then Mark McParkin by decision. Shit. Okay. So right away, even though I like it's a big number, I just think that this Machado dude is a folder. All right. So he's a folder 10 guy. So I'm killing that one. That
Mm,
decision line, I'm killing him. Okay. I understand it, but I'm killing it. I actually like Parkin round 3,
mm,
potentially in that fight. Okay, which is plus 750. So not a great price. All right. Between those two though, so it's so I'm gonna fuck my boy Jose Bobby Johnson.
mm,
He's a favorite. I'm fucking him. And I'm going against the grain. A lot of people on All-In Perez, but I'm gonna marry. Who doesn't want to marry a resilient woman? A woman
mm,
who always is back for more. She gets cut in the UFC. She gets submitted by Antonina Shevchenko. But you know what? That does not deter her MMA career, and she's back in the UFC. She gets
mm.
robbed by Jocelyn Edwards. That does not deter her. She gets right back on the horse. So I'm marrying Lucy Pudilova.
Nice.
I
Nice.
don't think
She's
she has a
29,
nickname.
29,
She's
29 too.
29 on the right
Still
side
got
of
still
30,
got a
baby.
lot. Yeah, still got a lot
On
of
the,
birthing years left.
that's right, baby. That's right. I put it. She's gonna get a seat in her right away, quick.
Nice. That potent shit. Good,
Yeah.
good to hear. Good to hear. All right, everybody. Well, that'll do it for this week. Gotta.
And she's a Gemini. And she's a Gemini. Let's
I'll
not
let you.
forget.
I'll let you get a few words off about your favorite MMA promotion before we close this one out. Any thoughts
Uh,
you want to share to the people?
Not really, because I haven't bet too many of them, but I did play Rafian Stats. 3 rounder. I guess I see people thinking that Sleepy Tello, excuse me, Sleepy Tello kept some in the tank for round 4, round 5, and in a shorter fight he should win. But at plus anything over plus 115, I'm taking Rafian Stats for sure. So plus 125 you could get now. I like that. There's one other prop that I haven't bet, so I'm not going to talk about that one. And I'm potentially liking Kelly Smolta against this. I think that Russian is. I don't like that Russian.
It's
Islam
worked.
Memedov or whatever the fuck it is.
Yep.
And I'm also looking to potentially fade Landu with this Japanese guy.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's one against that off the radar, potentially. So still looking into that one.
Interesting. Yeah. I like Landu. This guy, Japanese guy, never heard of him. Hasn't fought in 2 years, 2.5 years. But he's got 5 round experience over in Japan. Um, yeah. My thoughts are that Ukraine power will be on display in the main event. Patchy Mix is cool, but not minus 200 over Sergio Pettis cool. And I hope Sydney Outlaw wins as well. those are my thoughts. So, enough about that, though.
Yeah.
I hope everyone enjoys the fights this weekend, wins some bets. No UFC next week. We got Thanksgiving next week in America, so we'll be back in 2 weeks for the UFC Austin card, which is an amazing card. So, hope everyone has a good off week, win some bets, and we'll see you all for the next UFC event. Peace out, everyone.